The Kansas City Chiefs have cashed in their 133rd overall pick in the fourth round and taken wide receiver Jalen Royals. This is an absolute steal for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is an absolute win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Who is Jalen Royals? Well, he's 6 feet tall, 205 pounds, with 30 and 1/8 inch arms and 9.5 inch hands. All of those check the right boxes. A 4.42 40-yard dash, which is right there with what you want to see. A 1.49 10-yard split, which is elite. I think that's like 92nd percentile, something like that. The cone drills are a little bit lacking, 4.25 20-yard and a 6.9 4.3 cone drill. So it is what it is, but you're getting a guy that does have speed. 36-inch vertical is around what you want to see. It's not elite, but it's okay. It's good. 10-foot 1-inch broad jump is good. 13 reps on the bench press. You might say, so what? But this is a guy that is not massive, so putting up any reps at all, having the chutzpah to go out there and do it in the first place. Blanked in his freshman season, or his sophomore season, I guess. His junior year, he had 13 games with 71 receptions, 1,080 yards, a 15.2-yard average, 15 touchdowns in that season. Last season, he had 55 receptions, 834 yards, a 15.2-yard average again. That is just who he is. A 6-touchdown performance on the season, a 119.1 yards per game average, because he did have only 7 games in the season. Would have been a 1,000-yard receiver. So what are we looking at here with Jalen Royals in the fourth? Well, guys, the wide receiver room is now very formidable with lots of speed. This brings the floor up on the position greatly. Rashee Rice is your number one. Rashee Rice is your X-receiver. Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy are the speed guys on the field. Jalen Royals is now in your top 4 wide receivers. That's a great 4 wide receiver set. If Jalen Royals is able to do half of what he was able to do in college at the NFL level, the Kansas City Chiefs have one of the better wide receiver rooms in the NFL. Rashee Rice is likely facing suspension, and I do think that Jalen Royals can take his spot on the field at that X position. He's going to struggle a little bit. He does struggle versus press, so no better time to learn than right now, right? So getting him on the field, getting him those reps, and once Rashee Rice returns from that suspension, that's likely, not guaranteed at this point, but likely, then you have a guy who is now all of a sudden seasoned and ready to go for the postseason. Hollywood Brown is gone next year, likely. Re-signed a 1-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs on another prove-it deal. And this year, that is a track meet for wide receiver set. Like I say, he can fill in at the X spot, I think. Look, this brings serious questions as to whether or not Sky Moore is going to be on this roster this coming season. I think it is unlikely. If we see the Chiefs unload him during this draft, they could move from one of their 7th-round picks up to, you package Sky Moore in a 7th, move up to the 6th. All of a sudden, you've got some other options there that you wouldn't have later in the draft. This is Jalen Royals, a 2nd or 3rd round talent that fell to the end of the 4th. This was a stacked wide receiver class, not necessarily as top heavy as in years past, but there was something there for everyone. You want to talk about freaky athleticism. Jalen Royals in high school had a 6-foot 4-inch high jump. That's impressive. That is an explosive guy. It is crazy that translates to a 36-inch vertical, but hey, what do I know? Still, that type of explosion, so high jump is not just a test of athleticism. High jump is a test of really being able to learn a craft. So we'll get to a little bit later. He's not great with route running, but if you can figure out how to Fonsbury flop, you can figure out how to run a 5-yard out route. He is a hands catcher. Love to see this. He puts his hands up and snags the football. He is good at sitting down in zones. That is something that we have seen. We've seen Xavier Worthy struggle with. Sky Moore never got it. There's a litany of wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs who have never learned how to do that. He seems to be able to read his zone and pick a soft spot. So that's going to be good for keeping first downs coming for this Kansas City Chiefs offense. He is great at tracking the ball downfield, great at catching the football in stride once he's down there. So Patrick Mahomes wants to open up the offense. Patrick Mahomes wants the return of the deep ball. And with Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and now Jalen Royals on the field, you're going to be able to do that. He has, again, a 116.4 rating when targeted. That's incredible. A 116.4 rating when targeted. If he's able to do that at the NFL level, Patrick Mahomes is going to have some more 5,000-yard seasons. Now, we heard a little bit of the coaching and Brett Veach talk about wanting versatility in the return game. The NFL is trying to get more kickoff returns, trying to get that back into the sport after having changed the kickoff return. And he does have experience returning kicks. He wasn't great at it. I think it was a 20.4 yard average. So why take the kickoff at that point? And I don't know. He's more of a straight line guy. Maybe he has that versatility in the NFL. I think they will definitely try him there. Again, I go back to, I think that the kickoff return game is now a running back's game. If you were able to break a couple tackles there because you have so many of those bodies so close at the point of receiving the kick, that it's going to be a guy who can break a couple tackles that's going to be better at taking the ball the distance. And I don't know if that's Jalen Royals. I don't know if he's going to be breaking a whole lot of tackles at the NFL level. I don't think he has to, not at wide receiver. Now, from PFF, he was the 60th overall prospect, and he was the 8th wide receiver. And I threw some other rankings here, but what we're going to get into after this is some analysis from PFF, so just keep that in mind. But ESPN had him ranked as the 62nd overall prospect. Again, you're getting him at 133. That is way, way below where he was expected to go. ESPN had him as the 9th wide receiver. Sports Illustrated had him as the 63rd overall prospect. So again, that's a second round talent. All of these places had him as a second round talent. PFF says he is good hands at the catch point. He does waver in concentration sometimes, but I don't think that's going to be a big problem for him. Consistently extends his hands to catch the ball in the air. Those are kind of the same thing. Nuanced route runner who shows awareness to vary his speed. Varying his speed, he does. I don't know that I've necessarily seen a nuanced route runner. I think I have seen a guy who rounds off routes. I think I've seen a guy who runs routes that, look, maybe they're called that way, but they are a little bit different than the normal yardage markers than you would see. Will bounce off low ankle tackles 4 yards after the catch. He is very good at that. They say he's strong versus the press with active hands to fight free. I haven't seen that. I think he's going to struggle at the NFL with these cornerbacks that have those freakish long arms. But maybe they're seeing different things than I do. I would love to take their word for those for that right there and for the nuanced route running. I don't think it's there. I don't think he's much of a guy who's going to fight off of the press, at least at this stage in his career. They say long acceleration can be hot and cold. I see pretty instant acceleration. Long speed appears average for the NFL. Well, 4.42, so I don't think it is. Great at contested catches, but often lacks separation. That was a big problem with Larry Fitzgerald coming out of college, too. Go back and watch Larry Fitzgerald in college, and again, I'm not calling him Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald was never open in college. He just made the catch when the ball got there. They have as his comp Jermaine Kearse. You throw Jermaine Kearse into this offense as wide receiver number 4, and I think that this thing is going to go off the rails very quickly. I think that Patrick Mahomes would have a field day with a Jermaine Kearse in this offense at the number 4 spot and would return to 5,000-yard form. 2022 had a 47.8 grade. I don't know how you grade him when he didn't put up any stats. In 2023, a 908 snaps a 78.6 grade and got better on fewer snaps with a 461 snap output, but 79.6 grade there for Jalen Royals, his final season in college. This could finally be the guy that the Kansas City Chiefs thought they were getting when they drafted Skyy Moore. He's not the fastest out of his breaks, and he doesn't run the crispest routes, but I think you can coach him into being dangerous out of his breaks. The cone drills suggest that he will never be elite or fantastic, but if you can teach him, hey, this is where you have to make your cut because Patrick Mahomes is going to have that ball on your outside shoulder immediately, I think he will listen, right? He is is a guy who has gotten better and better. So you're looking at a guy who is almost undoubtedly coachable. And if you can coach a couple of these things into him, then you've got a guy who is going to be very good for a very long time for this Kansas City Chiefs offense. And Patrick Mahomes is going to love this guy as his wide receiver 4. If he had returned to college and he had dished out another 1,000-yard season, I do believe there's a possibility that he would have been a first-round pick. Now, he looks small on the field, but again, he's 6 feet tall, 205 pounds. Basically, he's Rashee Rice's size. He's not the player that Rashee Rice is. They're very different in their approach to things, but I think this would have been a first-round wide receiver had he gone back and put out 1,000 yards again. He would have broken 1,000 yards this past season, but for missing some time. This is a guy who was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. This is the beauty of football. Guys can dedicate themselves to the craft, get better, work hard, and end up in the NFL. It's something you don't really see with basketball because you're not going to put in a summer and all of a sudden be 6'6". But in football, you can do these things, and this is a great story, right? I do think because he is still getting better, he has wide receiver 2 potential. Again, this is a guy who was expected to go in the second round by a lot of people. This is a guy who was getting a lot of hype in the in the pre-draft process. So getting him at the end of the 4th round is massive for this team. Now, when you watch him on tape, he makes one-handed catches. He makes catches through defenders. He makes catches on the sideline. He makes catches on the back shoulder. He makes catches where his quarterback is a little bit off and he has to break stride and make the reception. He still does it. He's still dangerous after the catch when he has to break stride. So this is a versatile player for the Kansas City Chiefs that is going to be good. There's no doubt in my mind. Oftentimes you will see me couch things here. If he can learn to do that, if he can learn to do this, if he can break this habit, he will be good in the NFL. I think Jalen Royals is just going to be good in the NFL. I think this is one of those guys that so many wide receivers were taken early, so many wide receivers were taken last year, so many wide receivers were taken the year before, that a lot of teams are still feeling out the wide receiver group that they have, and they think they're all right. So he falls in the draft. Wide receiver is a position that has gotten a lot of attention over the past decade in the NFL. So teams are investing heavily in their wide receiver groups. And we've seen the Chiefs Brett Veach talk about time and time again how you don't really think about contracts. What you think about is buckets of contracts. We have to have 5 wide receivers on the team. We can allot this much money for them. Pardon me, I don't know what's going on right now. So, just adding and adding and adding, sometimes guys just fall through the cracks, and I think that's what's happened here with Jalen Royals. I thought the Chiefs were going to miss out on him when they didn't take him in the first. I thought he would be gone before they had their second-round pick. Didn't take him in the second. I thought he would be gone before the third-round picks. Didn't go in the third. Here he is at the end of the 4th, an absolute steal for the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion. Somebody that there's going to be a lot of eyes on him in training camp. There's going to be a lot of eyes on him in the preseason. What happens with the bottom of the Chiefs wide receiver room? You have now the top 4 guys that we've talked about. Skyy Moore ended last season unceremoniously. a mystery injury, and he ended up getting surgery, and he was done for the year. You have a bunch of guys that are just kind of maybes, right? A bunch of guys that I like. Justin Ross, for example, I like. He hasn't done anything. So bringing in another name at the wide receiver position was probably crucial for the Kansas City Chiefs. Nico Remigio did a good job returning punts last season, and he does have some of that wiggle. He is a guy who sells out for the catch, so I think he might round out the wide receiver room. It might be a season where the Chiefs only take 5. I don't think so. I think they'll take 6. Maybe they won't take 7, right? They do have brittle guys like Hollywood Brown on the roster. They do have a guy facing possible suspension, and they do have Xavier Worthy, who is very undersized. So you might take 7 just as insurance, but I don't know where you're going to go with it. So that is Jalen Royals for the Kansas City Chiefs. Hit the like button if you like this sort of thing. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, every day now for over 2 consecutive years. And I hope to have you back for the next one.